Hello everyone, Phoenix61 here with more Insano mode for the Halloween event. I am rocking the Destroyer. We are playing with potatoes. We have already lost a Destroyer, but we are going to win this game, right? So I think that there is a decent chunk of people out there playing this and/or people have just kind of started figuring it out and have a little more hope when it comes to, since they made some adjustments during that first week to insane mode, right? So now you always get the battleship to defend in the back instead of some, a random item, a random, destroyer or cruiser potentially. And so I have actually tried out a couple of different strategies because I was playing around and looking through the commander and how I had that set up, and I was always kind of like, well, maybe I could do some adjustments here. And so there is something that I do change in between games here. So I'm going to do 2 games. You can see we've skipped the first intro part, right? Like if you're dying there, like it's a problem, right? Like just with the destroyer, I'm surprised people are dying, and it's because you're not using your consumables correctly. The healing slash go invisible consumable, that comes back in 10 seconds. So like you literally could go with only being spotted for 10 seconds if you wanted to, right? Like, so you'll notice like every time I use it, like I use it very like sporadically and randomly and like kind of all the time, right? Like if I'm low on health, I'll even use it between shots because you can trigger it, and then when you do shoot a torpedo or your guns, right, it turns off, right? Which is fine, but it doesn't like delay the cooldown any, it doesn't make the cooldown take any longer, right? So it's like 9 seconds, right? With how I think I have one of the perks for the commander is like slightly faster cooldowns, right? So like that's the only time, like that you would potentially be at risk is those like 9 seconds, right? So like use that, push that button all the freaking, like if you're taking fire, you should push that button, right? Use that heal slash invis consumable like I'm doing here, right? And then I'll hold off on firing any ordnance, right? I'll hold off on firing any torps or guns for a little bit, and you're golden, right? Like you can sail right past enemies with that. Just the thing is if you shoot your guns or torpedoes, then it shuts down. But then it's a 9-second cooldown then, right? Like so survive for 9 seconds. Like you're telling me you can't do that, right? Like so you can do it. You can do it, guys. Okay, I believe in you, right? So we slam into our cruiser here. We actually had, I think the reason we make it through this game is because both of these cruiser players did really well. You can see they are using the explosion consumable, right? So anybody that's on fire, has fires on them, they can push that button and it makes them explode, right? So that has turned out to be the way to go for insane mode. I know when I originally started playing this, I was all about the healing rounds, but the damage dealing of those explosive consumable is just, it's huge. It's great. It works awesome, right? So highly recommend that if you're trying to get through as a cruiser, right? I do think that's one of the more challenging classes to play for this game mode. But yeah, so you can see like just I'm shooting torpedoes literally every second they'd come available, right? Like I don't waste any time. Like almost always, with the exception of like if I've got to like turn around like this or something, right? I'm almost always dumping torpedoes, right? And then I'll save the 2 blessings for when the boss comes around, right? In reality, it's really nice. What works really well on the boss is to have 2 battleships that do that, and then you go and use the offensive blessings, right? Both of them at the same time, and then you're doing more damage and have this awesome reload, and the battleships can waste that boss pretty quickly. But there is a way, like if you're trying to carry people through and you happen to be a destroyer, right, and your battleship players aren't doing the damage, right, you can still do it. It still works, right? So save both of those consumables. You'll see we do decent amount of damage with both of these these blessing power-ups, right? We always use the offensive ones. That's what you need, right? Use your healing cloak thing when you need health, right? You don't need a defensive blessing here. So you should be using the offensive one, otherwise you're just not going to be causing enough damage to get through this thing, right? So I've got 2 offensive blessings going here, right? I think these were the more damage ones. And you can see we're doing nice chunky damage when our torpedo salvos hit this boss, right? It's, you know, like if you're just hitting him right with regular torpedoes, it seems like it's not doing anything. But you double up on this this damage, right? It's decent, right? It's doable, it's workable, right? So, and then I also am, whenever I notice like I'm not taking fire, right, I'll shoot my main guns every once in a while to just try and draw attention to myself, right? Like if I've got a little bit of health, right, like I can draw some fire away from my allies to help keep them alive, right? So we take the boss out. We're at about 500,000 damage here, right? And this is where things get crazy, because you just get overwhelmed with these like triple spawning waves at the end here, right, of like just enemies upon enemies coming from every direction. But, you know, you only have to survive for 2 minutes, right? 120 seconds. But we've got, you know, we were given another blessing for killing the boss. I instantly tripped that, right? Because they last longer than 120 seconds. So you really, if you're not tripping that one, the second you get it, you're leaving stuff out on the, right? Like it's completely wasted, right? So sending all my torps here. We've got the buff going, so these torpedoes do epic damage on these guys, literally just going after whoever seems to be the biggest threat to the prisoner ship that you're supposed to be defending. So I'm sending all my salvos at these guys. I'm going to put my body in peril here, right, like risk my ship trying to get closer to some of these other enemies that are coming as well, because it doesn't matter, right? Like we just need one person alive when the prisoner ship is still alive for that last second, and then you're golden, right? So sending everything I can as quick as I can, using that torpedo reload booster whenever it's available, right? Like I do try and kind of time it for when like I've just launched, right, so that you can get that the full reload out of it. But yeah, I show up here with these guys, and you can see in between shots I'm triggering my, you know, cloak heal thing, right? Like, so like whenever I'm like, all right, I need this, right, I trigger it when it becomes available here. Even those last, like, those few seconds here and there being cloaked while my torpedoes are reloaded here, right, at this last ditch effort to try and keep this prisoner ship alive, right, trying to draw some fire away from him and my allies, right? So he takes a ton of torpedo hits here, and we get up almost to 1,000,000 damage, right? And then the timer runs out right as everybody is dead, right? So yeah, like I said, like it lets you, you know, as long as he's alive, when that timer hits the 120, you're good, right? We get victory out of this one. Take a quick look at the board here, right? So yeah, 921,000 damage, right? It's pretty easy to get games over 1,000,000. My next one, I think we break 1,000,000 as well. And I think, you know, it's totally doable depending on any of the classes, right? Like I've gotten over 1,000,000 with the cruiser, and I've gotten over 1,000,000 with the battleship, right? Like, so you should be getting up close to that. Don't like stress if you're not getting close to it, like, because like literally we did almost half of that was at that very last part, right? So this is how I have this commander set up for the game we just watched. Okay, so like, you know, and it's all about the torpedoes for your destroyers, right? So, you know, you got to focus there. But I do incoming fire dispersion. I feel like that's helpful. I do torpedo launcher reload time here, right? The guns are not really great. Like, don't build into the guns, right? Torpedo damage here. Speed isn't too big of a deal. I'll take the damage over speed for this game mode, right? Don't build into the guns. And then I was using this Phantom Pinnace, right, with ship launch torpedo damage if your ship is not spotted when torpedoes are launched, 20% more. What I'm going to switch to here is this Speedy Strikes, because it's torpedo damage per 1 knot of your speed. And if you've got the engine boost going, you're up like 60 plus knots a lot of the time, right? So that's more than 20%, right? Even here, I don't have engine boost going. I'm at 43, right? So I'm like, like, so you do have to strategize a little bit differently to try and like make sure you continuously are moving. But as long as you're above 20 knots when you're getting these torpedo hits, that's better than the other perk, right? So if you're struggling on like doing damage, like you might want to try this strategy with the destroyer, and it might work out a little bit better, right? Like we were able to get it done just fine. Well, I wouldn't say just fine, right? We were able to sneak by in the last game, right? And it, you know, you guys know this game mode, right? It's so dependent on getting some decent players in here that kind of have this type of mindset of like do as much damage as possible, right? Like, you can't dilly-dally around. You got to be launching ordnance every second that it's available to get these waves done. But right, so we go kind of out of our way here is the, like, kind of the one thing. And I would see, you know, when I was playing this game mode before, I would see destroyers going kind of off on their own, and it would just annoy the heck out of me. But now I'm looking back and like, well, maybe they were trying this, right? Maybe they were using this perk where you need the speed. But yeah, like right now we're going 53 knots, right, and getting torpedo hits. So yeah, and of course I skipped the first part of the match for this one too, right? But then I was gonna try and like get like a couple of torp hits on the boss while we circle back around. But like, we did like our, you know, pretty good share of damage and kills to that first wave, and then the battleship guys here, battleship and the cruiser, are mopping them up, right? So this kind of worked out pretty good for us. I think this game I had a little bit more help from, you know, the guys that we got match made with, right? And so this game felt a little easier, but I don't know that it's completely because of, you know, just switching this perk to this like speed one, right? So, but like you could see, so now I'm paying more attention to making sure I'm using my engine boost whenever it becomes available, and then I'm trying to like come up with my path on the fly here, because, you know, you kind of look out and see where enemies are spawning, and you got to make sure you get decent angles on these guys. You know, you can send, you know, previously, like what I'm doing is I'm just like kind of sitting here at the direction that they're coming to and just dumping torpedoes that direction every single time I get a chance, right? But here we have to kind of do some maneuvering and swinging around to keep our speed up here, right? But yeah, we're up above 60 knots there for a second, so that's plus 60% or better torpedo damage, right? Like, as opposed to plus 20 that we were getting previously, right? So sneak a couple of torpedoes through that little hole there, because they're going to be reloaded by the time we come around the corner here anyway. Doesn't matter. Yeah, 4 of them got through. And then this is kind of this, like, I don't want to say like final wave, but you get this like this third wave in where a bunch of these destroyers spawn. They're probably some of the most annoying like spawns that happen in this game. Like, they really throw you for a loop because they just spawn everywhere. And then yeah, here I am. I'm like, all right, I got some health. I can fire my guns for a little bit here, get spotted a couple times. It's not going to be a big deal. And then when we need it, we'll use the heal. And now we're invisible, and we're just going to surprise this this very ravenous ghoul here with lots of torpedoes. So he's going to go down easily, right? Super easy, right? And then yeah, this invisible / heal consumable comes back in 9 seconds. So like that's you know, if you ever need to stop taking fire, you just push that button, and you know, you can take fire for 9 seconds and survive, guys, right? Like, so just keep that in mind. Make sure you're paying attention to where you're at when that becomes available. Literally the cooldown's only 10 seconds, right? Like 9 seconds, right? So like, just really something you got to pay attention to. I get kind of stuck on the wall here, and I wasn't sure if I needed to back up or go forward, and I was trying to like also pay attention to like shooting at things too, and I'm like, all right, we need to just get unstuck. So trigger the invisibility and get unstuck from it. We're hanging on to these blessings, right? And this is where I think that like this might be like super helpful, like, right, if you don't have those like smart battleship players that are holding on to those offensive blessings until the boss swings around, because now I can use both my offensive blessings plus my speed, right, to try and get myself, you know, going fast when these torpedoes hit the boss, and then they do even more damage than what we were getting done previously, right? So this may be the way to go, right? If it's kind of, if you find yourself like out of position too much because you're trying to keep your speed up, then maybe you know, revert back. But this definitely felt like I was doing more damage, especially to the boss here as he comes around. So we'll try and keep our speed up as he comes closer, and then we'll trigger both of the offensive blessings that we've been holding on to here. That's right. So those, I think those were both more damage. And then when we get, you know, wait, some of these are going to miss because like he's not angled right for us, but I'm swinging around to come towards his side, right? Just checking on the other enemies. But now as we get these broadside hits on him, it's just it's gonna be epic how much damage we can do here. Alright, get our speed, we're at 40. Alright, watch some of these torp hits, right? Like, it's nice and chunky. We gotta make this turn here. Alright, that one wasn't too impressive. Alright, engine boost. Let's get some speed going here.
Main turret has been severely damaged.
Sending them when we got them. Yeah, it does look like the battleships are doing a decent job of hitting them too. But yeah, a couple of these here, we're up to over 50 knots. And as these hit, like they start looking a little bit more powerful here. So yeah, at least this way you're not, yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff right there. Okay. He's done. And then again, this last blessing, when this shows up, use it. Use it right away, because it only lasts 120 seconds, and that's how long you need to survive. Right? No sense at all in holding on to that for any amount of time.
Wow, we actually did it.
And then again, it's just, you know, it's a cluster here at the end, right? Just keep moving. Keep an eye on your mini-map, see where people are, see who's the closest to the prisoner ship. And this is, like I said, like, these guys did a phenomenal job. We got lucky and got paired with a great team. So part of it was like, well, is it, you know, did I really do better because we changed up the, you know, the commander perk and are using this, you know, this better torpedo buff? Or is it because we had a better team? And I think it's probably a little bit of both, right? But yeah, we have a buffer here. Like, there's, you know, previous to the last game, everyone was right on the prisoner ship as we came in here. Get some torps on these guys, and again, keep paying attention. Like, I'm using that cloaking in between torpedo shots if I have to, right? Like, I'll shoot the torps and then hit the cloak, and I'll be invisible while I'm waiting for my torps to reload, because the torpedoes take about the same amount of time to reload, right? Like, unless you've got the torpedo reload booster, right? And so I hit the torpedo reload booster, launched the second set, and then hit the cloak, right? Like, so you know, you can go 10 seconds being spotted and survive pretty much anything, you know, and then go invisible again, right? Like, use that. I think that when you see a destroyer player die, they weren't using that right? So got whole 5 seconds left here. Everyone is still alive. It's a freaking miracle. There we go. That is 2 ways to win with the Destroyer class on Insane Mode with matchmaking with random people, alright? It's doable, guys. It's doable. I think that maybe there's a little bit, the player base has gotten a little bit better with this. So if you were struggling, excuse me, if you were struggling in the past, maybe give it another shot here too. Other thing too is if I'm on live stream and I'm not sick of this game mode, right? Like, join in. If you need help getting through your first insane win still, I might be able to do that and help you out and jump in with you. We'll see. Like I said, it's going to be dependent on if I get sick of this game mode or not, right? Like, right now it's still fun here and there, but after a couple times of like losing, I usually switch back to standard. So, but yeah, so here's how we have the commander set up for this past round here. And we have the additional, we switched out of this Phantom Penance perk and we switched to Speedy Strikes, because with that engine boost going, you can get up 60 plus knots, and that's 60+% more torpedo damage, right? So highly recommend trying that if you've been like me and struggling and aren't currently using that one, right? And that is going to be our insane mode shenanigans for the day, guys. Kind of, I definitely enjoy these Halloween events. Definitely mixes things up. It's nice to do some PvE for once in this game, right? And some extra rewards and all have you whatnot, right? So, World of Warships videos every day, guys. Make sure you're subscribed. We'll see you tomorrow.